Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Coahw, that's Confessions of a Hotel Worker. First up we have Look for a New Job at McDonald's by Asher32019. I work at the front desk of some condominiums. They are very popular and we stay constantly busy. With the number of buildings we have, some of our buildings are called hub buildings. So the desk I work at takes calls and put in maintenance requests for other buildings we have. Or we simply just answer any questions they have. I work the evening shift and it was around 8 p.m. I got a call from one of the buildings whose desk closed at 6 p.m. asking about the Wi-Fi password. I gave the guest the password we had for the unit they were in and even tried another one that could have worked. He said that neither of those passwords were working and I said, "Unfortunately, sir, those are the only passwords I have for your room. If you go to the desk in the morning, they may have a different password." Which of course upset the guest. He then asked to talk to the manager because his amenities weren't being met. Obviously I say okay. We hang up and I call my evening manager. I explained the situation, and he said he couldn't talk to the guest and they would need to talk to the manager of that building tomorrow to see what they could do for him. I thank him and hang up. Because I am at my own building, I obviously get busy and have a line start forming at my desk. After around 30 minutes, I finally got the line down and started getting a call. I answer, and it's a guy about his Wi-Fi. I apologized for not calling him sooner and explained I had a line at my desk, and that is why I hadn't called him back yet. I then explained that my evening manager had told me he needed to talk to the manager of that building's desk in the morning, and we apologized for the inconvenience. There was a pause of silence before he simply let out an annoyed huff and said, "You didn't really talk to anyone?" "Yes, sir, I did talk to my manager." "Well, I don't believe that you did, or else you would have called me back sooner." "As I said, sir, I had a line of people at my desk and couldn't call back sooner." This goes on for a minute or so. Then he gets more upset and I ask him not to speak to me that way. His response? "Well, I don't appreciate your attitude." "I don't appreciate being called a liar, sir." "Whatever. I'm going to bring this all the way to your higher-ups tomorrow and make sure you don't have a job. So you better start looking at McDonald's for a new job." Before I can even respond, the guest hangs up and I burst out laughing afterward. I immediately pull the guest reservation up and start putting in the notes from the entire interaction. I called my evening manager back and let him know everything, which immediately got the "oh hell no" response. This manager does not play with people being assholes to the front desk. He tells me to mark the guest as problematic and as a "do not rent" because he won't come back, if this is how he treats the front desk. Guest was marked as "do not rent," and wouldn't you guess I still have a job and I'm not working at McDonald's. Yeah, but now I want a burger. Extra. I know if a lot of people see this, someone will ask about why my evening manager couldn't talk to the guest. The way our condominiums work is the rental company I work with, which is our front desk, had helped build all the buildings we have. The HOA of each building dictates most of what happens with the building, and 2 of the buildings we have, the HOA kicked us out of having anything to do with the building now. So all we do is check in the guest for the units we own in them, and put in maintenance orders for the ones that we rent out. The building that this guest was calling from was one of those buildings. Yes, he was one of our units, but since it was one of the buildings that we don't do much with, the manager of that building specifically had to deal with it. Plus he was a wanker, and why would you want to help a wanker? Story number 2. But I am an FDA by Famous Sleep 2977. I had the RCMP drop off 3 girls this evening. The officers were in a hurry and left their phone number in case there was any problems and left. Now these 3 girls were a little noisy but didn't seem too bad at first. I asked for a credit card, none of them had one. I explained, okay, I will need the room and tax up front plus a $400 damage deposit, which is refundable at checkout as long as there are no damages. They agreed. I handed the girl who was paying the debit machine and she asks why it was so much. Drunk friend number 2 explains again to her about the damage deposit, and then starts going on about how that is normal and she works front desk at a different hotel. I assume it was redacted. Well, the girl who was paying said she would have to transfer money, pulls out her cell phone, and it dies. R.I.P. I let her plug in her phone and get them to step aside while I help check in the next guest. These girls keep interrupting me, and they keep getting louder and louder. I politely tell them they need to keep it down, as this is a hotel and there are guests sleeping. I finish up checking in the guest who had a reservation, and I go back to attempting to get payment from these girls. Again, the girl who was paying is baffled by the amount. Again, I explain about the damage deposit. She attempted to tap for the amount. I explain, I'm sorry, our machine doesn't accept tap. The transaction declines. The girl puts her card in, and the PIN screen comes up. She put in 3 numbers and then turned the machine towards me and says she doesn't understand. I said, you have only put in 3 numbers of your PIN. The transaction declines. Hand them the machine for a 4th time now, and they go right back to trying to tap for the amount. It declined. I picked up the phone and called the RCMP officer who dropped them off and said, they cannot pay for the room, you're going to have to come and get them. I hang up the phone and tell these girls, who are getting louder and more belligerent by the second, that the RCMP are on their way and they need to leave. Well, drunk friend number 2, the one who claims to be a front desk agent, thinks it's my fault that her friend cannot make the debit purchase because I must have pre-authorized her card. I explain that I have not pre-authorized the card and we are attempting to make a purchase. Nothing to do with a pre-authorization at all. I then tell these girls again that they need to leave. By this point, one of the cooks from the kitchen has come up to the lobby because he heard the chaos. He also tells the girls that they need to leave. At this point, Miss, I'm a front desk agent, decides that she's going to call 911. She is yelling and screaming at the 911 operator and tells him that she's at a hotel in a different city and that because her friend's card declined once, I was being a bitch and wouldn't rent them a room. The 911 operator repeatedly asked her to calm down and explain her situation in a manner that was understandable. Cue drunk friend number 3. She decides this is the time. She pulls out her phone and starts video recording me and says, we're gonna make you famous tonight. You're gonna be so fired. Thankfully, a few moments later, the RCMP officer that had originally dropped this chaos off in the lobby shows up. He takes the phone from Miss Simon FDA and gives the 911 operator his badge ID and the case number associated with these girls. Then him and his partner got the 3 girls out of the lobby and into the parking lot, where I'm certain the chaos continued. For a good 20 minutes there was another police cruiser and taxicab showing up in the parking lot before all girls ended up back in the car with the original officers. Poor bastards. Now here's my main question. Since drunk friend number 2 so very loudly and multiple times told me, and anyone in the lobby could hear her, where she works, should I call the place of work and inform them of the terrible example she is setting for their business? I'm leaning towards... Now here's my main question. Since drunk friend number 2 so very loudly and multiple times told me, and anyone in the lobby who could hear her, Now here's my main question. Since drunk friend number 2 so very loudly and multiple times told me and anyone in the lobby who could hear where she works, should I call her place of work and inform them of the terrible example she is setting for their business? I'm leaning towards no, but boy oh boy, I hope karma comes back around tenfold for these chaotic messes. I mean, if that's the worst that happened, I mean, like, they were obnoxious and belligerent, I'd probably let it slide this time. But if it had gotten worse than that, then yeah, because she is choosing in her off hours to represent the business. And that is going to hurt them in the long run. Story number 3, Got Yelled At for Leaving a Man's Wife Alone, by Patrick the Coahw. 10:55 p.m., 5 minutes until the end of shift. A couple of nights ago, I had a guest come up to the desk asking if I had seen his wife in the lobby at night. I tried to explain that I haven't been at the hotel in 4 days since I was at my second job, but apparently that wasn't a satisfactory response. He then asks the same question again and says that I watched the cameras, so how could I not have seen her? She must be gorgeous. I wanted to say, I have no clue who you are, but I end up saying something along the lines of, I don't remember her face, so I can't say. Escalation. He begins yelling at me how I wrote his room number down in my hand when I checked him in a week ago. He asked for a room tour as a walk-in, and I have a bad memory, so I write down the number so I don't forget after giving them a tour of the amenities on the way to the elevator. And how he did surveillance in the military. Sorry. It's been a long day. Whew. So he knows that I'm lying. I tell him what I said above, about why I write down room numbers, and that I have ADHD, so my working memory is awful unless I write specific things down. Again, I must be lying, as he has it much worse with the TBIs he's accrued through his military service. At this point, I wanted to ask him to leave, but he was pacing like a tiger about to pounce, so I refrained out of fear for my safety. He then tells me to leave his wife alone, and I tell him I haven't spoken to her. He repeats himself, I repeat myself, he repeats himself, and I just say, okay, since there's no way to convince him at this point. He then walks away begging me to continue to play with him and try him, so I just walk back into the office and call my manager to watch and save the recording of that interaction, because obviously he's off his rocker. 10:05 p.m., my night auditor is walking into the lobby. 5 minutes late. I pass along the events of the night to both my manager and my night auditor and stick around the desk for a few minutes, just to make sure I'm not going to be attacked on my way to my car. I still have no idea what the hell he was talking about. Edit, if he returns, he'll be formally trespassed. He's on our DNR list. I just wanted to go home and didn't want to deal with the police, so that's why I didn't call them. Fair. His trauma isn't an excuse. Oh, were people making excuses? Fucking wankers. Isn't an excuse for his behavior, and no proof he was actually in the military. Whether he was or not, no excuse. But please don't be derogatory to him for having it. Claiming he has it. No proof. He probably didn't want or ask for it. Thank you for the positive comments. It's helped a bunch with letting go of any residual stress. Story number 4. The Non-Guaranteed Reservation. Good ending. By Insecto K, 1973. Context. I'm basically back from a long weekend off, and I exceptionally did the evening shift, just to have 8 hours more off. I drove 7 hours before my shift. Usually our location has an evening supervisor, but they called in sick for this specific Friday night. The experienced workers changed shifts with one of the new guys. Let's call him James. And there was another new guy till 7. Kai. Keep in mind, it was my 6th week at the hotel, and I was the most experienced one on the reception staff that night. And it's the biggest hotel outside of downtown and the airport. We had 100 arrivals to process that night. The day supervisor lets me know of the precarious situation for this evening. They also let me know that Ms. Sweetheart has a non-guaranteed reservation, and that since we are 100% for that night, we have to cancel her reservation at 6 p.m. as per policy. Since I am the most experienced, he has to trust me with that. So I waited and waited for her phone call or email, and I never received it. So when 6 p.m. comes, I cancel her reservation. James asks me why we cancel it, and I had to explain our guaranteed reservation policy, and he understood. When Kai exits, there are still around 60 arrivals to proceed, so me and James know it's gonna be busy. Around 8:30 p.m., there was a long queue plus non-stop phone calls. So I asked the client to prepare a credit card and ID while I answered someone I had on hold for 5 minutes, because people had so many questions at check-in and there was a big queue at reception. When I'm done with the phone call, I check the client's ID and I notice that this is Ms. Sweetheart, and she's in front of me. So I prepare myself mentally to give her the bad news and everything that might come with it. When I tell her, she tells me that Kai told her over the phone at 12 p.m. that she just has to come by the front desk whenever she wants and her reservation is guaranteed. Whilst my supervisor and I were sending emails about that, she thought everything was fine because why wouldn't she? We told her it was fine, so I had to apologize to her, empathize with her about the whole situation, and make sure to find her alternative accommodation whilst keeping myself composed. I gave her complimentary water and gave her directions to her new hotel. I also gave her the card of my supervisors because I couldn't offer her anything as compensation since it's not my job. She thanked me for understanding her problem and being proactive in a delicate situation. For context, she is a High Elite Rewards Program guest and comes in every 2 or 3 weeks for 2 days, so this really is a bad mistake. She also drives 6 or 7 hours to get here every time. I texted both supervisors long vocal messages to let them know of the situation, so that they had every detail in my words, and let them know to exceptionally contact me any time if they had any questions about the situation. They didn't, so I guess the 5-minute voice message and long email was enough. The next day comes, and I'm on the morning shift with barely enough sleep. We received an email from Ms. Sweetheart letting us know of the situation, plus new details. When the night auditor proceeded with the cancellation, she charged the cancellation fee, the credit card was invalid, so I don't think to put the don't charge cancellation on the folio. It's also my first time handling the policy myself. I worked at a different hotel before, and our policy was 72 hours before we take payment, so we had plenty of time to contact the guest, and it was a resort far away from civilization, so we usually kept the reservation there because we would not resell the room anyway. The cancellation fee went through during the night, so the situation is even worse now. My supervisor reimbursed it immediately on Saturday and let them know that it's going to be the other supervisor that will contact them about the situation on Monday. Tuesday comes and I get called on the director's office. They let me know about the compensation package Ms. Sweetheart gets. Her next 2 reservations have been upgraded to suites. She also gets super-duper high elite welcome gifts for her next 2 stays, and they put additional points on her rewards account. Seems a bit much, but fair enough. They also thanked me for handling this situation right away and apologized for having to make me work with the new employee as a recent hire. Honestly, I'm just happy Ms. Sweetheart is coming back after this fiasco. I mean, I apologize for making you work with young James there. It sounds like they're new, but they're asking questions, so, hopefully they'll be alright. Or they might just be a complete no-hope for the last question, but I think they'll be alright. Anyway, story number 5. My hotel has one room that no one is allowed to stay in except one specific guest. Today I found out why. By Throwaway Lemento. I have worked front desk at a hotel for 3 years. Ever since the beginning, we have had an older man stay with us regularly, probably 4 to 6 days a week. Mr. Lemon. I have casual convo with him daily, and I find him to be a very kind and normal guy. Just an innocent old man who knows his manners. We have plenty of regulars who stay just as frequently as Mr. Lemon, if not more. But something weird I've noticed is my manager is extra careful about making sure he gets the same room every time, despite him stating he doesn't mind being assigned to other rooms. She also instructs us not to assign anyone to his room unless absolutely necessary, even when we know he'll be gone for a while. The few times we've accidentally put other guests in his room on weekends, my manager has just said, "Yuck," every time she says, "Yuck." I never asked. I guess I thought maybe it was because he's older and very overweight. Maybe he had a certain smell to him, I don't know. Recently, Mr. Lemon came by the front desk and asked me to pass a message on to the housekeepers. He said he'd like for them to stop putting scent rings near his box of tissues, as it triggers his allergies and he's not able to use them anymore. I told him I'd let them know, but this confused me because I'd never heard of another guest having scent rings placed in their rooms. We do spray air fresheners, and that's it as far as I knew. So I call my manager and ask her about it. Why does Mr. Lemon say we put scent rings in his room? Because he pisses all over the room. He has a weird piss kink or something, and it fucking stinks. I was genuinely flabbergasted. She said it so casually. After collecting myself, I asked her why she never has told me, and why on earth she'd let him continue staying here. That's what I was wondering. She said it's not her decision, and she doesn't want to talk about it. But the second he stops booking with us, we're replacing everything in the room. I couldn't believe it. I vented to the assistant manager about this. It didn't seem right. All she said was, "Yeah, that bed is also literally formed to his body." Honestly, I'm flabbergasted and disgusted. I can't see Mr. Lemon the same. I just feel uncomfortable now. Is this normal? After some thought, I guess it makes sense. It's probably cheaper to keep renting it to him than to put the room out of order for reconstruction, but oh my god. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page, which is linked down in the description. $1 or more gets you early access to all the videos at once on Monday. There's also a link to my merchandise store over on Teespring, as well as my Discord server and my Threads account, and my email is kingofthecities@gmail.com if you need to contact me. That's everything for now, so until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. I need a shave.